Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first ever Soundstone Summit, a meeting of the minds of members of the Soundstone podcast network. This time around, I'm hosting. I'm Gooey Fame. I'm from the Flashback 64 podcast, where we chronologically cover the Nintendo 64 library. I'm joined with my fellow founders of the Soundstone network. Joining us today, we've got Sean. What's up, Sean?
Hi, I'm Sean Douglas. I host Kirby Conversations for us. I'm also a writer and a teacher, and working on a new show for the network as well, which we'll get to more later. But that's my role with the network right now.
Awesome. Yeah, really excited about that. And we've also got Darren. How's it going, Darren?
Hello, this is Darren Hupke, voice of the Pixels and or Polygons. I do that podcast on the network, and yeah, that's what I do. You guys probably know me from being on the other shows too, so that's me.
Yes, we're getting the real Soundstone synergy going. It's fun because I feel like we've all been on each other's podcasts, but I don't think we've ever done a podcast all together. So it's great to be here with both of you.
Yeah, we've streamed together, but never anything that was like specifically a podcast.
Yeah, so we're gonna hopefully this will be a thing we do from time to time throughout the years, and I'm pretty excited to do it. I'm pretty pumped. We've got a lot of cool stuff coming. Why don't we jump into that and just say like what's going on with the network? Darren, do you want to start? You want to tell us what you've got going on?
Sure. Yeah. Pixels and Polygons. I have loosely for 2026 launched my season 3, whatever that means. In the background, what that means is I've refreshed my questions. I've tried to like enhance them a little bit more to be slightly more conversational. Like I've always called it a conversational podcast, but sometimes once we just answer the question, that's kind of it, based on time and everything. And so I've scrapped the like this or that section. So now, me and the guest will do a little bit of an icebreaker, but then I give us a lot more time to like actually talk about the topic at hand. So having some refresh questions for the year coming up, and hopefully having, more dialogue that's worth listening to. My goal still is to have, between 20 to 40 minutes or so per episode. So nothing too large from like a time commitment or anything. It's the perfect podcast to listen to between podcasts. So if a flashback episode ends and before you want to jump into a Kirby conversation episode, maybe you don't have as much time left in your drive or whatever it is you're doing, maybe that's when mine slots in. And then on the drive back home, Kirby conversation ends and you don't have enough time for a flashback, then boom, Pixels and Polygons, good round out to fill up your time and everything. But yeah, that's the podcast side of things. I have been really busy on the background with some of like the books and everything that I've been doing. So Retro Game Zine was a big success. I don't know how I'm defining success. I produced it, I made it, and I made 12 of them monthly. So I succeeded in my goal was to do that. I'm still, exactly who I am. So nobody's called me for publishing deals or anything like that at all. But I love doing that. And now that's going to evolve into I've already done like the first Kickstarter to like fund the first issue of it, but it'll be Pixels and Polygons quarterly. So instead of it being monthly, it'll have essentially 3 issues worth of content in one single issue. The 3 games will be covered, but then because I'm selecting the games included, there's also like an overarching essay that I've written about like that specific issue's theme, and that allows me to kind of work with other collaborators. In this upcoming issue, actually, you did a written article for the first Pixels and Polygons quarterly, and then I'll have like an original comic. I actually, at the time of this recording, I just got the final file from Maddie. You might know them on social media as That's Raspberry, really funny comics that she puts out, from time to time and everything. But really cool to collaborate there and have a comic for the issue as well. So having some extra bells and whistles that enhance it, so it's more than just like the 3 single games covered, but some additional context and content and everything too. So that's coming out in around March. But also in March, I'll have the 32-bit library greatest hits book. which is another book in my 32-bit library series of things. This covers 50 games that were re-released under the greatest hits, like that neon green greatest hits label for the PlayStation. So games that sold really well. That doesn't necessarily mean they're quality games, but still it's fun to like look at some like big, major titles that people were spending their money on in the mid to late 90s, and examine that in that same kind of 32-bit library style. And after all of that, I'll be in person at the Game On Expo in Phoenix, Arizona, which is kind of like my local show. I'll be a guest of the show and have all these things for sale. The Retro Game Zine annual from last year, plus all the other stuff that I'm doing. So I've got a lot like going on outside of like the podcast stuff. So I like to stay busy, and some other secret projects that I'm working on in the background too. Some skateboarding related things too. I've been posting about on Blue Sky. So that's going to turn into a project soon too. So staying busy.
Yeah, give Darren a follow on Blue Sky as well. You can maybe start to uncover the mystery of what this project is.
Yeah, it's a book about skateboarding video games. It's not like a super mystery, but what will the final package actually be? Who knows?
Yeah. Thank you for letting me be a part of that zine. For fans of Flashback 64, you're going to want to check it out because I got to write about Snowboard Kids, write a little review. And it was awesome because I rarely write anything. I'm not really a writer. And just through doing the podcast and stuff, I've occasionally gotten to write stuff here and there for video game related projects. And it was really fun to kind of, I don't know, go outside my comfort zone and try to write something. And I don't know, it was a fun creative exercise, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. So thank you for that.
No, I'm glad you did. I mean, Sean contributed to one of the Retro Game Zines issues last year for Mario Tennis, and you both like hit exactly like what I want out of those articles. Like, I don't want like an over sanitized like retrospective on like the history of the game or the development of it and all that stuff. I just like a personal take, or a normal person's like perspective as a fan or somebody who enjoys the game, just to kind of share that like context about like kind of what makes it special or why it's special for you specifically, which might be, it might be similar, but it might be different to what other people enjoy about the games. But like, that's the feeling that I want, people to get from like reading it. Cause if they've not ever actually played the games, reading articles like that by people like you two who have enjoyed the games, like they can maybe understand the context. It might not be that 10 out of 10 Chrono Trigger, like, never forget this game type of thing, but still, like, there's good games out there that, sometimes get like forgotten about or overlooked and whatnot. So to be able to have like that context and share like why people enjoy them, like that's why I want to do the zine and everything. So it's been really fun. And McKenna also did an issue last year for the Harvest Moon issue. So and on top of that, the theme for this issue is third-party 64. So it's 3 games that were Nintendo 64 games, but just non-Nintendo published ones. So kind of seeing some of like what as little and as difficult and different as it was for Nintendo to kind of shift gears with the lack of third-party support they kind of had for that system, how the developers who like did contribute, how they like took advantage of the hardware and created some original games and everything. So to look at a few of those, this is kind of fun and was cool to do. So yeah, Flashback fans should like this first issue and then should not like the second issue.
Oh, because it's a N64 haters issue.
No. It's about like Square games, but like odd Square games, but none of them appeared on 64. Yeah.
That's cool.
That sounds good too, though.
Yeah.
I also for fans of the show, there in that same issue, there's a Fighter's Destiny article which we also covered, and we had Jay on our like ranking on Patreon for that one. So yeah, there's a lot there if you're a Flashback fan, so check it out.
And I was on the regular episode for that one.
Yes, and there's so
perfect.
much.
Look at the synergy.
There's so much synergy. It's like a big pool of synergy.
We talked about fighting the cow.
That's right. Yeah, the secret character, the cow character. I remember that episode.
Rodeo mode, wasn't it called?
I think it was called. Yeah.
Sean, how about you? What's going on over in the Kirby Conversations world?
So Kirby Conversations is still going strong. We're in a format right now where we're doing what I'm saying is about one episode a month. So we'll have one featured episode per month. And then once in a while, I'll try to get more things in the feed than just that one. So we'll have a few side trips along the way, but we're focusing on one longer episode per month right now. And a new thing that I want to try for this year is to have more correspondence from different competitive scenes that relate back to Kirby. So I've been trying to bring more Smash Brothers into the show. And one thing we're going to try to do now, and I don't have them lined up yet, but I'm kind of looking at who might work for this. I'd like to have a Smash Brothers correspondent who can check in with the show once in a while to talk about the competitive scene for Smash Brothers. So looking at Ultimate and also Melee and bringing that side of it more into the show too. And also the Air Rider scene. We talked a little about the Air Rider scene in a past episode a while ago, but bringing people from that space more onto the show once in a while to just catch us up on what's going on in the competitive space there, how people can get involved with following it, or maybe even participating if they want to. And it's interesting how I think maybe initially I thought that the Air Ride scene would all kind of migrate over to Air Riders now that there's the new one. But a lot of those Air Ride players have really stayed as Air Ride players. And I guess that kind of makes sense. Like that's how a lot of fighting games are. That's how a lot of competitive games are. Like you've got the Melee crowd and you have the Ultimate crowd, and it seems like Air Ride is doing kind of the same thing, where you're going to have the GameCube players, and then you're going to have the modern one. But we'll bring in more correspondents then, covering these different kind of competitive scenes along the way as well. Plenty of more Kirby games to talk about that we haven't covered yet. And I know listeners really wanted to hear us talk about the anime. And I actually didn't really know the anime super well, which is why we hadn't covered it as much. I was talking with Gu and Darren about this before we started recording. But I did watch some episodes of the anime today. We're getting ready to do some episodes about that throughout the year as well. So we are listening, as people tell us like, hey, I'd like to hear more about whatever. We do take that into account as we plan things. So hopefully we can give the listeners more of what they're asking for this year, while also covering some exciting new other things along the way as well. Along with Kirby Conversations, I'm also bringing a new podcast to our network. That'll be called Millennium Edition, and it's going to cover games from the 2000s. So looking at that turn of the millennium period, the Dreamcast, the GameCube, the PS2, Game Boy Advance, other things that are adjacent to that. And that's still very much kind of in the oven right now, but it's percolating. It's getting there. We have a friend of the network, Andrew Elmore, is working on our cover art, and Duncan Smith, who did some of the music for Kirby Conversations. He did the cover of the song that we play as our theme song. He's doing the theme music for it, and a lot of things are coming together, and I'm looking forward to getting that off the ground in a few months. Gu and Darren, it sounds like both of you will be involved to some degree with that as well as you are able. So people will be hearing more voices than just me on that show. They'll be hearing other people they'll be familiar with kind of from the Soundstone neighborhood. We're looking at doing 2 episodes, or I'm saying 2 episodes a month. I guess it's every other week an episode. So looking at making a bi-weekly show where I would do 1 episode and then alternate with various contributors who can also bring things to the show as well. So trying to deliver as much content as possible while also juggling grad school and other writing projects and the other things that I do in my life. But I have spent a lot of time with this network talking about Kirby, and I still like Kirby, but it'll be nice to branch off of that. And I don't want to be too kind of just in the Kirby box. And hopefully that can kind of be an opportunity to stretch myself creatively too, and cover more different things. So I'm not just the Kirby guy. I'm doing other things too.
I totally get that. I started when McKenna and I started Flashback 64. We both came from, and we're still a part of the Zelda community, heavily involved still, and we make Zelda related shows and podcasts all the time. But I did start to feel that need of like, well, I want to kind of talk about some other stuff as well, not because I don't dislike Zelda, but it was like, oh yeah, I kind of want to like open up and like, talk to a wider variety of people, about other things and stuff. So, yeah, I'm excited for you. I'm excited for this show. It's an era that we on Flashback 64, we've gone back and talked about eras prior to or consoles that ran parallel to the N64. and we've gone kind of forward. We have our winter series where we talk about that era. We talk about Wii games, but we've purposely sort of avoided the next era after the N64 just because it, I don't know what it is. We're just like, maybe someday we'll get there, or if we don't, it's fine. But we're just trying to stay relatively in our era, and so I'm excited because now, kind of working with you on the show and doing some episodes for you, it is going to be an excuse to talk about stuff from that era and kind of immerse myself in that. So I'm pretty pumped about it.
Yeah, I cannot wait for it. I, of course, like the 32-bit library books, like that PS1 era for me, like to me, that's like the formative years for me. That was when like I was making my first decisions to independently like pick what I liked and find the taste of things that I wanted and everything. But when the PS2 launched on October 26, 2000, I had it day one, and I've had every PlayStation console since then. But that PS2 like launch into like getting a GameCube with Metroid Prime when it was like the price was slashed, having a Dreamcast as well, like in intervening years through that too, like. That era is when, like, I was just now getting older. I was a teenager into, late teen, young adult, like type of like time frame. And even more of my taste was refined. Like I really found what I really liked about gaming, and like gaming started to like, not only did I want to get deeper in games and find a way to be involved, but like the types of games that I was playing were also becoming more and more involved and stuff. So like, Eco and Shadow of the Colossus and things like that on PS2, like those were like really monumental and inspirational games and everything. So if I love the PS1 stuff, I probably love like this generation like even more. It's part of the reason why I didn't start there. I don't know if y'all feel the same way, but like whenever I do like the first thing, I know it's never going to be like my best thing. I'm going to like learn and get better as it goes and everything. So I never want to maybe tackle my favorite or the most important thing to me first. I want to do something tangential to that so that I can ensure that like I'm learning the ropes and getting better with it. So when I do want to take a swing at that big thing, like I'm ready for it. And so like this era like would be like probably my most like influential and most important era for me. So I'm very excited to talk about like literally every game like that was released in that time frame. So I'm excited for you, Sean. I will be available to you for any amount of content, big or small, that you want in support, because that's just going to be a really cool thing. So excited to see it.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I think it'll be fun doing it together. Part of the reason for doing that is obviously there's more that we can create when we're all working together, but I also just think it's more fun to create things with other people. And I didn't really want to just have it be just me all the time. Like I thought there's like so many other good voices that we could bring onto this, and it's just like more fun to collaborate. It's my favorite of the sort of retro game eras, and I think it's just an era that has held up really well. So many of those games like be kind of released today with maybe just like a little polish and a little quality of life stuff here and there. Like they've just held up really well. And I think it was a time too when people were feeling more optimistic about the future than maybe they are right now. Not to get too political or anything, but I think we're in a time where people are starting to question certain things about the internet. They're questioning certain things about technology. And at the time, it was more kind of like technology was fun and it was hopeful and it was playful, and it was like, look at these different devices that are coming out in different colors, and oh, there's a new millennium upon us. Oh, this device can connect you to the internet, so you could play Mario Kart with someone somewhere else in the world, and that all seemed kind of new and magical and different. And it'll be fun to return to that space, I think, and reflect on that in the context of the current time. Not in a negative sense, but it's just, I think, fun to look back at how sensibilities are around like the internet and things like that are kind of different now.
Yeah.
Well, there was some serious concern that you could use PS2s and the power of that processor to create missile guidance systems and whatnot, and those were falling into the wrong hands. Was a concern back then, but obviously, that never happened. Actually, ended up happening and everything. But I do remember reading crazy articles about that.
I think that actually happened. They covered it up. The PS2 wreaked havoc on the world. Well, yeah. Also, since you kind of started with it, I want to just second people checking out Kirby Conversations. I've really enjoyed your Air Riders episodes, like, because I picked up the game. I've played it a little bit, and I had never played the original, and so it was nice to kind of get a lot of context from all of you, because you all have like I don't know, you just brought a lot of like depth of knowledge to it. It's greatly enhanced my enjoyment of the game already.
I mean, Bridget has, I think, like hundreds of hours now into Air Riders. Like, she's been really, really, really into it. And so I think most of that is on just her expertise and everything that she's found out about it. But thank you, Goo. Thank you.
Yeah, Bridget is is like a deep well of knowledge when it comes to that game. Also, enjoy following all of you. So why don't we, before we have a topic, but we also have our own announcement.
We didn't give you your flashback update. What's new in the flashback 64?
I forgot I had to do this too.
Out?
I forgot I had to
talk
do this
about
too.
yourself.
Okay, so flashback over at Flashback 64. Obviously, we're still chugging along through the Nintendo 64 library. Our next game that's gonna come out is on Forsaken 64, which also that had a PlayStation release as well. There was Forsaken on PlayStation. Then we're closing out our winter series with our family. We got Michael and Matt coming back on, and we're talking about Wii Sports Resort. So exciting lineup of EPs coming your way. In terms of N64 library, we've got episodes coming out. We've got some guests scheduled for Clay Fighter Sculptor's Cut and Bio Freaks. So if you like some weird fighting games, we've got that for you. We've been streaming throughout January. We've been streaming Banjo-Kazooie. We've been playing that with our group of friends over on our Twitch, and that's at twitch.tv/flashback64pod. We've been doing that on Mondays, and on Fridays we have been playing Quest 64, which we also have people booked for that, so that's going to be a pretty exciting episode. Those VODs are going to eventually make their way to our YouTube channel once we finish the game. So check us out. You can go to flashback64.com to find links to all of that stuff. On top of that, actually, we've got a special thing coming to our Patreon. So we did last year we did a small series called 64-Bit Adventures, where Matt DM'd us in a bit of a role-playing game set in the world of Mario 64. And we actually just recorded our first episode of a follow-up to that. But this time we are going to be playing in the world of Blast Core. So it's a sequel, actually. We created a sequel to the game set in the near future, and it's a lot of fun. So that's over at patreon.com/flashback64. And yeah, you can become a patron. You can get early episodes. You can get our bonus episodes where we rank the games and we talk about movies that we've watched. Some of them are 90s movies from the time period. So a lot of good extra stuff for you there. We occasionally send out stickers as well. So get on there. We got a lot of exciting stuff going on. Okay, why don't we also, we've got a grand announcement for the network. We've got a new show coming, as you know, but we've also got a new show joining the network. Pretty excited about this. We are going to be bringing on our pal Nick McConnell, who hosts Instruction Derby.
Oh, hi. I didn't see you there. I'm Nick McConnell, and you caught me reading the instruction booklet for Street Fighter II in preparation for my weekly stream Instruction Derby, where I take a look at the creative, fun, and sometimes bizarre lost art of video game manuals. Did you know that, according to the manual for Street Fighter II on the Super Nintendo, Ryu was born in 1964, making him 62 years young, canonically? Happy birthday, Ryu. You're looking great. Did you also know that, per the manual for Laser Invasion on the Nintendo, the UN enters a conclave in order to select a new commando? Or did you know that the dancing enemies in Super Castlevania are named Paula Ab Ghul and Fred Askare? These important facts and many more are discovered every Wednesday at noon Pacific on Instruction Derby over at internet website twitch.tv/Nick McConnell, part of the Soundstone Network.
It's a highlight of my week every Wednesday at, well, I don't know what time. It's at 2 for me, but
Noon Pacific is
Pacific.
What he... Yes.
You'll hear it in the ad.
Yeah, that's thrown me off a few times because you all recognize daylight savings, but where I am, well, we don't move, and so sometimes it's at noon for me, but other times it's not. There's an hour difference, and so figuring that out 6 months out of the year, I got to figure out when to watch it. But it is a regular watch for me. I've always been a fan of Nick and Instruction Derby, and just kind of keeping in conversation with him, especially even as a guest on Pixels and Polygons and our irregular association simulation series, which we need to do a new episode of soon. But I'm very excited to have him joining the network.
Yeah, and those are also on YouTube too. That's usually where I catch them. So whether someone's on daylight savings time or not, or wherever you are in the world, he does put his past episodes on YouTube. So you can also follow the Instruction Derby YouTube channel for a nice library of readings.
Why did I not know this?
Oh yeah, he's got them all up there. He's been a great guest on your show. He's also been on our show for both. Not just we have actually read some N64 manuals on Flashback with him, but we've also talked about other things. And he's also read some N64 manuals over on his stream, and some are games that we've covered that have amazing manuals. So if you like Flashback, I will say you definitely should go check it out, because there's a lot of good. I think that's what's great about a lot of our shows. Like all of our shows can be complementary to each other's shows in a lot of way. And I know he's also been a great guest over on Kirby Conversations. So
yeah, a few times. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I don't know if this is going to change the way I interact with him on his show, but when it's on Twitch, I bring a certain sense of humor that I am now regretting if it's recorded and permanently available to rewatch anytime on YouTube. Yeah, if you want some slightly untethered humor from Darren, you can go watch old episodes of Instruction Derby. If you want a slightly more mature and a little bit more focused Darren, watch future episodes of Instruction Derby.
Well, that hasn't stopped you on our streams either, by the way.
That's true.
Anything I have heard you say on your podcast, Darren, has always been amusing, and I don't think there's anything that would turn people off.
Okay, well, I'm the wild card.
although I don't know, I haven't seen every stream, so
I'm gonna go and clip everything.
Yeah. Oh boy. Okay. Well, good to know. I learned something new about our new pal, new network friend. So more outlets for you to just find some cool gaming content and everything. So excited to see both the YouTube and Twitch streams in the future being part of our little gang.
And all those links will be in the show notes, I'm assuming, for this podcast.
Absolutely.
So,
yes.
Yeah, click away and explore some new podcasts that you might not have listened to before.
We've got, as you can see, like a cornucopia of various shows for you that are all really exciting and interesting. So why don't we jump into our main event here of the episode? So I thought since this is the first Soundstone Summit, I was thinking what's thematically something that would be good to signify like the first or the beginning of something. So I decided this is almost like a Pixels and Polygons-esque. I sort of just came up with a prompt. So if you like this, maybe you can get an even more thought out version of it over on Pixels and Polygons. But I thought we could talk about our favorite openings or introductions to a game, because that, to me, that's like something. It's one of the most important things about a game is like how it brings you into its world, how it introduces you, how it gets you hooked in on like the mechanics or the gameplay or the story or whatever. And yeah, I just thought we all could give an example of a game or games that strike us for whatever reason. So I don't know, Darren, do you want to start it off?
Sure. I will share one. I have 3 written down in my note here. I wasn't sure how much time or whatever we talk about, but I'll share one, and then if we want to double down or they come up in the conversation, we'll talk
Sure.
about the others. But I feel like no matter which one I'm going to say, it's going to make me sound like Joe Madden gamer. But Uncharted 2 for the PS3. I thought was just a really rad, cinematic, action filled introduction to the game. I had played the original Uncharted and was a big fan of it. Just a kind of a run and gun shooter with really loose platforming that was not necessarily the most complicated or dangerous. It wasn't quite like Tomb Raider. It was more it guided you along while you blasted away hundreds of people and found treasures and things like that. But Uncharted 2, Tarantino's it all, and it just starts with Nathan Drake waking up in a train car, and he's kind of wounded. He's clearly been through the ringer, and you're just assuming this is another adventure he's been on. He's established himself as this Indiana Jones type, and that's the vibe you learn from him already from playing the first game. So the second game holds no hands and just lets here is more. Get ready. We're just going to start with it. And this train car, you realize, isn't upright and isn't on tracks or anything, but it's dangling over a cliff's edge. And when he kind of dislodges himself and kind of gets adjusted, he kind of breaks free, and everything starts to fall away from the camera, which is actually down, off the edge of this cliff. And so your game starts with you discovering that and kind of climbing up through and navigating and getting your bearings until you kind of are back to a safe and sane space. But that is the ending to one of the big set piece moments of the game, but the game starts you off there. And so once you see all of that, it'll then it'll reset you back to the start of the story and how he got there and everything. But I thought it was great, a great way to reward players who had played the first game to not throw so much exposition and character building stuff or tutorials on how to learn the controls. It was thought out from both a storytelling perspective, but also from a gameplay and narrative perspective. All of the things kind of were in sync to kind of kick into this instant action kind of thing to get you ready to go. And it does double back and starts to deliver the story to you in the narrative way and scale back the difficulty to allow you to ramp up and everything. But I just thought it was really cool because that was that, games were becoming more and more cinematic, but obviously once that generation hit, there was a lot more processing power. And so seeing some of these big set piece moments in these games, it was always neat to see how they tried to one up each other. And I think Uncharted 2 to me just really hit a sweet spot. It got it right. And it was really cool. And for years after, the big action games would try and, emulate and rip off that same style too, which I always thought was obviously imitation is the best form of flattery or whatever the phrase is, so yeah. That's the one I brought to the table. I don't know if either of you two have played Uncharted 2 or if you were hit with similar feelings or vibes from that game.
Sean,
I haven't, but
No?
the way you describe it does sound very cinematic, and I can see how that would be very impactful.
Yeah.
Is that the intro is in that sounds like it's the beginning of the game, right? It's not the opening title sequence.
Yeah, you hit start and it just drops you in, there into that moment and everything. So it doesn't ramp you up there. That isn't the ending to the big opening set piece. You are given that as the start of it all. And later in the game, you see the set piece. And actually that's part of the really neat thing about it. They make you forget, they give you 8 to 10 hours of gameplay. And then you end up coming through the adventure and you jump onto a train that's moving along this mountain edge and everything. And you're jumping across car to car, trying to get to the front of it and everything, fighting bad guys along the way. and you get even into like a boss fight with a heavy dude with a big rocket launcher thing and shoot at a helicopter, all the big action generic things you can think of. But if you think back on it, you're like, wait a minute, the game started with a train car. Like, wait, what's going on here? And then the train sequence you're on, you realize it ends with the destruction of the train and it falling and you being stuck there and everything. So you actually get to see the start and the climax of this huge giant train car moving across, with dozens and dozens of train cars, like, and you can see in the distance, like the very front of it is like so far away, like, so you're moving along this one giant stage and everything. So it's just graphically and gameplay wise like a really big epic thing. And then once you realize, like, because you probably don't catch yourself in the moment because it's nonstop kind of gunplay and action, but you don't realize that it's going to end with that opening sequence. And then when it kind of goes to white, you're kind of in the snow, he's exploded and kind of blown away. You realize that when he comes to, you're like, wait a minute, whoa, this is the start of the game. Like, I did this before, I've seen this. It's the Leonardo DiCaprio meme where he's like pointing like, hey. And so you kind of get to play up to that point and then continue to see what was next. You got to see why he was so beat up, you got to see why he was put through the ringer and everything and wounded, and where all that came from, as you then get to the end of the adventure and one more set piece.
Yeah, that's I should say that's McKenna's series. She loves like the Uncharted games. So maybe we should have her talk to you about them sometime. I've never played them. I have a podcast where I watch video game movies, and I have seen the movie. So let me tell you,
I've not seen the movie yet, and
it's not good.
Yeah, that was long gestation. Actually, Wahlberg was supposed to play Drake, and then it was in production for so long that he just aged out, and they were like, well, we're going to keep him involved, and he's going to be Sully. And it's just so odd that was the decision they made. But cinematic, giant set piece things are, obviously that's the Uncharted series in a nutshell. But I just, I had to pick that one. I was just, that's a big one for me.
I do like when a game has like a starts with something, particularly for like action adventure games, like, which is my preferred kind of genre. Like, obviously other genres, like there could be more slower openings to games and stuff like that, but for like a action adventure game, I typically want to like get into something if not exciting, just kind of fun in the intro. So that's that's actually what I was thinking about in terms of like a lot of the games that started coming to my mind. But Sean, what's an example you had?
So this is one that I don't know that it's like qualitatively one of my favorite introductions, but it does something that I thought was an interesting thing that introductions can do. So they recently came out with a remaster of Virtua Fighter 5, Virtua Fighter 5 Revo, and then that got updated into Virtua Fighter 5 Revo World Stage. And it's like a remaster of the last Virtua Fighter that came out some years ago. I want to say 2012. I should probably just look it up, but somewhere thereabouts. And I'm not really that familiar with the Virtua Fighter series. I played the second one and went on like the Sega Genesis collections, and I knew some of the characters just from kind of just being some iconic video game characters. And some of them make appearances in Fighters Mega Mix, which is a Sega Saturn game that brings various fighting game franchises together and has a bunch of guest characters and stuff like that. But I really don't know the series very well. And then for their introduction in this game, they took a song that I think was like the credits music in Virtua Fighter 5, and they made it the intro music, and they had one of their main composers come back again and make this new version of the song. Takanobu Mitsuyoshi, who is a familiar voice, I guess, for people who are very familiar with Sega music. I was not familiar with him, but he came back and made this new version of the song. So there's this big cinematic intro at the start of the game, new version of this song that has lyrics and everything. And I thought it was interesting how the introduction inspired this feeling of nostalgia for me, but it was a feeling of nostalgia for a series that I really don't have a history with. And it was like a sort of calling back to like memories that aren't actually there. And I thought that was actually very effective, where I don't know that there's anything, like a lot of fighting games have a big flashy cinematic intros that introduce the characters and stuff. And I can think of ones that are more memorable than maybe what Virtua Fighter 5 is Revo is doing. Like it's a good intro, but like there's a lot of good intros out there. But I just thought it was interesting how it like when I consider like my sort of positionality like with this game, it's sort of treating me the same as it would treat anyone else in its audience in that way. And it's saying like you are welcomed into this thing, sort of no matter who you are and what your background is. It's like by positioning this as kind of this nostalgic thing, everyone's all going to share in that nostalgia, whether it's really your history or not. And so I do feel this sort of sense as they're showing the different characters, like, oh, it's so and so, and it's so and so, and I'm also like, I don't really know who these characters are, but I'm still sort of excited to see them. And it made me think about how you could kind of do that with anything if you present it in the right way. Like you could take some topic that like none of us are interested in, that we don't follow at all, and you could come up with this like upbeat, like cinematic sequence with a song and make it kind of cheesy but inspiring, and you could kind of get us maybe into anything if you do it the right way. So I think that's a good example of what an introduction can do to bring you into the experience of that game, and also instills a sort of like there's this kind of like empathy of thinking about the community and thinking about the other people that are excited to see this back again, and how like maybe I'm also feeling a bit of that too. Like I'm excited to see it back because I know other people are excited to see it back, even if it doesn't specifically mean the same thing for me. So I thought that was interesting how it that you know the past and the present coming together like that to inspire a sense of nostalgia, even if you don't actually have it as your own personal nostalgia.
Yeah, I think that's something I feel like I can't think of a specific example off the top of my head, but like I definitely know, like, have seen that conveyed in all types of media, like movies and TV shows and stuff, where like they can bring you in and make you feel like, you know, oh, this is like a big world, and even if you're new to it, like you can appreciate some of the history and like the, you know, like the grand nature of like this long running series or whatever it might be. So I can definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, I don't have. I never played 5. I got 4, and I remember that was a big deal on the PS2, because that was after the Dreamcast, you know, went under and Sega went third party and everything. That was the first Virtua Fighter on a non like arcade or Sega platform and everything. And I did like that quite a bit. I mean, they had like a cool mode where like the AI kind of learned the way that you played, and they had like, you know, all the CPU tournament fights, and you went through like the Dan rankings and things like that. I don't know why I skipped out on not getting 5 when that released, because I do remember seeing like the cover and you know, obviously it was a big deal game and everything. But yeah, I like the idea of it being able to emotionally like bubble up like the feeling of nostalgia. Like I was trying to think of games that kind of maybe do that for me or had done that for me. And yeah, I mean, I can think of like oddly like emotional games that like I felt like feelings for, like Blaster Master, for whatever reason. Like when I see the introduction and I hear that music, and then like the first level starts, and you just see the little boy lose his frog, and the frog escapes down a tunnel, and he gets in, and the music cues in and everything. Like for some reason, like that always just gives me like, you know, like the hairs on my arms stand up, and I'm like, I feel like I'm just like in this like adventure. Like I feel like for some reason, like I'm just like, I don't care that it's like pixelated artwork. It is like just very real feeling to me. Like, oh my gosh, like I'm ready for this. Like I can do this and everything. And like that game, you know, there's no dialogue, there's no voice lines or anything like that at all. It's just like a few like static screens that kind of like set up this whatever the story is that never really comes back into play. But like the combination of it and the music and everything just like instantly makes me like feel like, okay, I'm into this. Whatever was just happening, like I'm on board, like I'm in this adventure, like I want to figure this out, like I'm here. And yeah, I mean, for any game to successfully, you know, make people feel something like that beyond just a pure like soft entertainment value, you know, that's got to be a win. You know, that's got to be something special. So that's cool.
Yeah, sometimes you get a like a really nice minimalistic like Super Metroid has just these like brief panning shots of the laboratory, and like you just get that like image of the Metroid in the lab with like the dead scientists around it and just that ambient music, and it's all like really subtle, right? It just starts, right? It doesn't have like an overture for you. And then other games do more like intro as overture. That's really like we're gonna have a theme song. We're gonna have like this like music montage. We're gonna do something that really invites you in and gets you excited to want to play. And it's interesting how it works across time too in a weird way, right? It makes you excited about the history of something. It makes you feel like you've participated in that series maybe more than you ever actually did because of the way that it invites you in.
You mentioned like you said like a little bit cheesy. I think sometimes that can do it, even if it's for something you have no connection to. Is if like for me at least, if like something is like earnestly evoking a style, I don't know why. Like I keep thinking of like movies, but like sometimes I'll see a movie where like it might not even be like a long running franchise or something, but like they might do something with the score that is maybe not like in the current conventions of movies. Like it might harken back to like an older time or something with the set or something like that, but it makes it feel like, you know, these things that we've like maybe kind of moved away from because they might be viewed by like a modern audience as like cheesy or passe or something. Like we're actually going to like embrace that, and not in like a cynical way, like in a genuine like we like there's actually something you can draw out of that style. And I feel like video games, especially with like the current like retro nostalgia, can really do that. And I feel like I don't know, sometimes it's definitely in a like a cynical way, or like, oh, this isn't like really like they don't really like seem to appreciate the source, but when it does hit, it hits. I'll say so.
And I hesitate to even say cheesy because it's like I don't really feel like it is, but like I can also tell that it's a very kind of unvarnished sincerity that maybe some people would consider cheesy. But I don't know. I appreciate the sincerity. I appreciate the kind of these grand platitudes and that sort of thing.
It's interesting to think about it for like a fighting game, because I have played Virtua Fighter, but it has just been like at the arcade, and you know I just go up and play. It's not like a series I've put a ton of time into, just like here and there. So it's like it's, I don't know, for a fighting game like that's for a handful of them. That's how I've kind of interacted with them. It's just like seeing it, whether it's at an arcade or like maybe a friend who is super into it, not experiencing something like that. And I feel like the games that I have spent a lot of time on, like, have had something like that in them. Like we played some Soul Calibur 2 together, Sean, and like that was the game. Like the big intro of that game was something that like really got me hooked and like inspired me at the time. So stuff like that really gets me. Actually, I'm gonna kind of change the game I was gonna say, but I'm gonna stay within the realm. I know I mentioned earlier I talked way too much about Zelda, but that's where my my mind immediately goes. It's kind of, I just have too much knowledge and history with that series. And we were talking, Darren, about like I was saying, like I like games that kind of like get you in on the action right away. And there was a long period of time where I was always wishing they would make a Zelda game that asks you when you start if you had played a Zelda game before. Like you start playing and there's like not only did it start to come about in the era where like stories began to be more involved, but also like Nintendo felt like it had this need to like really make sure if it was your first time playing, like they covered all bases. And for me, what it ended up creating was like you're playing for hours before, for me, it got like to the good stuff. And so I think the game that really kind of blew that off and like changed things was Breath of the Wild. I love the introduction to that game, how you're just kind of thrown into it. There's still like a little tutorial area, but within this tutorial area, it's like a microcosm or whatever. It's a little example of like what the whole game is like and that freedom of exploration. And it was just like, for me, it was like such a nice, refreshing change up from like some of the main console releases in the series up to that point, which had like long openings and tutorialization and story and stuff like that. This was just like, we're going to throw you right into the mix, which my other examples that came to mind are similar to that. A Link to the Past and the original Legend of Zelda, where they just start and it's like, here you go. Let's do it. Let's play. So, yeah, Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, I feel like Breath of the Wild like does that, and I've not played a minute of it. But this is me speaking, obviously, because I know everything about it without having ever played it. But like I feel like that was like just a well-designed like Nintendo experience. Obviously, like the developers knew the experiences of what the players were expecting out of it, and they used that. I don't want to say against the player, but they knew that like, hey, you're gonna be put in this spot. You're gonna think you're in like a little like centralized dungeon. You're gonna think that this is the way that the game is gonna kind of play out, and this is the vibe you're gonna get. Like if you knew nothing about it, like you're dropped into like a contained moment where like, okay, cool, this is what the game's gonna be. But then when you kind of get out of that space and you kind of hop up that ledge and you go out and see like the edge of a little rolling hill, and like suddenly like it's like wide open. You've got like, I think there's like a moblin in the distance you can go like fight, but you realize like, wait a minute, like I can wander like anywhere I want to, and suddenly it's just like, it's not like a centralized like potential like like area to area, map to map kind of feeling that maybe previous Zelda games would have led you to suspect or expect from it. But instead, it's just like, no, like here's everything again. Here's almost a throwback to you feeling like what that original Legend of Zelda was like, with being introduced like, hey, here's a weapon, go. You've got 2 buttons. This had to be a little bit more involved to teach you a few of the skills and a few of the things that were involved. But essentially, like once those were given to you, it was now come up, hop out, see the sunlight, and like realize like, oh my gosh, like I can do anything right now. Like I can go anywhere. Like I don't know what I'm supposed to do specifically, but that's also the entertainment of it all. So like I think that for sure is like a memorable opening. And again, like I've only ever experienced it through osmosis and everything. So like I mean, I know how impactful it is even without ever actually playing through it myself. But yeah, that seems like definitely like a for sure top on a top 10 list, of like being able to evoke and display like what players should expect, but also what they should not expect, all at the same time, with a game.
Yeah absolutely. Sean, have you played, I think we've talked about this before, but have you played Breath of the Wild?
Yeah, I've played Breath of the Wild. I used to teach an online course during the pandemic that was inspired by Breath of the Wild, where kids would solve puzzles and create I had one where it's like solve dungeons that I had made, and another where they created their own dungeons. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, wow. I got like 1,000 kids, like more than that, like going through the class, and I've been able to talk with a lot of kids all over the world about Zelda through those classes. So, yep,
it's cool.
Very good games.
For you, Sean, like how a game like kind of opens up its sort of it's like world to you, like do you have like a preference for that, or like how would you like to be like taught or tutorialized?
I actually don't really mind tutorials.
Sure.
I guess I just sort of expect them. I think like it depends on how they're done, right? I think there's very elegant tutorials, and then like sometimes the game will just have you figure itself out, on its own. But I don't mind a tutorial, especially if it's elegantly done. I think it's fine for a game to, have to break the fourth wall a little bit at the start, and there's a sign that tells you to do something, or like the game just stops and says, hey, here's how to do this thing. And I think it's actually kind of nice when a game I think it's nice when games do a lot with that, because they used to rely a lot on manuals for that. And when I'm playing an older game that I don't have the manual for, and it doesn't have information in the game itself, it does become a lot harder to figure out the game. So I think on that level, I appreciate when the game will have a lot of the same information that would have been in the manual directly fed to you.
Yeah, for me, getting a new game like when I was younger would be like the whole drive home. I would be trying to use streetlights, every few sentences to read, and then be like kind of in the dark and waiting for another light to come by, and then like, look at it again or something like that. And I would try and study up and like, learn about as much as the mechanics, the gameplay, or like the opener of the plot, like before I even got to start the game, so that when the game started, like I was ready to go. Yeah. And now modern games, like you don't necessarily get that, especially if you're just digitally downloading something. You're like in it before you even really know the full extent of it. So what would you expect out of a tutorial or how the game teaches you and everything? Um, I like it when a game can like creatively put you through a tutorial, but
Yes.
not make you think it's like, quote unquote, like baby mode. Like, I'm trying to think like, it was, I think Final Fantasy Tactics Advance, or maybe even Tactics Advance 2. It like opens with the game, there's like a snowball fight. And so like you take turns and you like, you move around your map and you're not just instantly in a life or death like battle, but you're able to at least see, moving your units, passing turns, like attacking by just throwing a snowball and not like significantly like damaging anybody. It's like a smart way to like kind of show you a little about like kind of what to expect, like with no stakes, but still being able to like introduce you to how it is. Or um I think Horizon did a pretty good job of doing that, I believe, as well. Like when you were like young Aloy in those games, and she was like, instead of shooting giant monsters, it was like a little bit of target practice and like testing her limits, and like near her village. But otherwise, like you saw the scale grow as the game actually opened, but it still let you feel like you were in control of the game while that was happening too. So, um, yeah, I don't know how you necessarily feel. I think if you can do it well, I'm all for like a tutorial, especially if it feels like it's in world and not like, signs posted saying press the A button to do this. And like, it's really weird. Like, why is this sign here for any other reason? Like this isn't like a in world sign. Like this is just kind of like awkward that this exists here. And now there's a prompt on my screen telling me, but if it's put in the world, the quote unquote, like world of the game, it helps me kind of like ease into it and feel better about it. But I can also appreciate a game for just going from 1 to 100 and like throwing you right into the mix of it all.
Yeah, I think for me it is more about like how can you hide it, or just make it fun. Or in the case of, I guess you mentioned like reading signs, I think of like Ocarina of Time. There's like a bunch of signs you can read, but I think about it for like, that's a game I love to like continually revisit, and it is because like every time I replay it, I can just be like, okay, well, I don't need to read the signs or go talk to the know-it-all brothers. So that's me. I'm thinking about the replayability, So yeah, that's a big factor to me. Also, I don't like that it took away the manuals, because Nick's gonna run out of material for his show eventually, So we got to support him there. Bring back manuals.
He'll have to move on to player's guides or something.
Yeah. Oh, there's some good stuff.
Just reading like GameFAQ articles.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think about it like my ultimate example is, it's not even just the tutorializing too. It's sometimes it feels like there's a lot of stuff they want to tell you up front that I feel like they could maybe pepper in more so. And my biggest example I always use in the Zelda series is that the game Twilight Princess has you go through a sequence to lead up to the first dungeon, where you make it to the entrance of the first dungeon, the Forest Temple, 3 times before they let you enter it. Like you do a little opening sequence with the monkeys, then you do a little thing where you're the wolf, and then you finally go and you go up as human Link, and it takes like, I think the first time you're playing, it's hours until you're in the first dungeon. Whereas, I don't know, like I said, A Link to the Past, you're in there in like 2 minutes. It's like, just let me get to it. Let me have some fun. I don't care about being the wolf. Okay. Do we want to throw? I mean, this has been a good length of episode, but I know. Do you want to just lightning round, Darren? You said it had some other options. You just want to throw them out?
I had 2 others, and they still fit the same theme of the Uncharted. It's like that cinematic aspect of it all. But I think really what the theme here is, they're all sequels. They're all number 2 in their respective franchises as well. But I think why I appreciate them, like looking at it in whole, and as I was just thinking about it, it's a way that these sequels are able to kind of like reset the stakes and make it believable that your character could like start anew or like refresh their journey and all that stuff without like like, well, wait a minute, in the last game I got all these, I got to level 99, I had all this armor, like, and now you're telling me I lost all my spells, like, why can't I keep going in here?
It's like the Metroid or like Castlevania sort of intro.
Why doesn't Samus have all of these things? Where did she lose the screw attack, from this trip from this planet to this planet? Like, why do I have to go find these things again? But creatively in a narrative way, like resetting the framework to allow you to kind of continue on. I think that's what was kind of neat about these. So the other two I had were Dead Space 2 and Mass Effect 2, both games from the same era as well. Again, I'm the Call of Duty Carl over here, but Dead Space 2 like starts things off, and it introduces like the credits to the game as like the main character from the first one is like kind of being he's like in a facility. He's clearly kind of crazy and kind of gone insane from the events of the first game. You're not quite sure like where he's at or like why he's there. But things seem to be kind of crazy all around him. But then like that's when like crap hits the fan, and like the monsters, the necromorphs and things like that in that series start to kind of like come out. He's like he doesn't have a weapon or anything yet either, but as he's like talking to like this guard who's like across the way from him, he like approaches him and he's like grabbing onto him, and then suddenly out of nowhere, at a surprise, you just see like this tendril like impale and come right through like their neck and their head and like stab right out, and you see like it's like the face hugger equivalent of like the Dead Space world kind of engulf this person, and like all in real time and without you being able to do anything at all. Like you see like how the human kind of like evolves and grows and like distorts all gross and graphically into like a necromorph with like their limbs extending and getting all crazy. And before you know it, like he headbutts the thing and they're on the ground, but it's no longer a cutscene, and like you are in real time. Like now, like there's fires, there's enemies all around you. You have no weapon. You just kind of have to sprint and get to like a safe space so that you can defend yourself and get a weapon and kind of reset things. But it was just interesting in how they made this obvious cutscene with like no direct control or ability to kind of like input into anything, just instantly kind of transitions into you suddenly having control, which as a player, you're as like jarred and like confused about what's going on as the character in the game is. Cause like suddenly you have control. You're like, wait a minute, hold on. I don't have a weapon. Like, I don't know what I'm doing, but so does Isaac Clarke. Like he doesn't know what he's doing, where he is, or why things are happening the way they are around him there too. So you get the same feeling, but for different reasons. And he has no weapons or anything. So all the stuff you lost from the first game. So it makes sense why you're trying to like figure this whole place out and get suited back up and everything. And Mass Effect 2, similar reasons. Like you played for the first game. You had your ship, you had your crewmates and your squad mates. You learned the threat to the galaxy and everything. And 2 starts with like a recon mission. You think you're just out, and your Shepard is like maybe putting the pieces together to try and continue to solve this mystery out there in space, and then your ship is attacked by a completely overpowered and unknown entity. One of the big bads that turns out to be just one single ship of the big bad's entire fleet and everything. But you're then running through what was once your hub area of the first game on the Normandy. You're running through it as it's being obliterated. Lasers are like flashing through it and like cutting it into pieces. It's like crumbling around you and being exposed to space. People who were on your crew are like dying and like escaping, and like it's just pure chaos. And you're running through it all, ultimately to be what appears to be potentially killed yourself as like the central hero to the game. But it's through a crazy like deconstructing. It resets you and your expectations for the narrative by literally deconstructing like the ship, your home base, like the whole central like dynamic of where it was that you played that first game through. Like they tear it apart right in front of you as a player. So if you were like attached and emotionally connected to like these people, and you went through 50 hours of that first game, like suddenly to have that be like literally torn apart in front of you, it's like, oh my gosh, like what is going to happen next? Like, how is this going to like turn from here? And that's what kind of sets it up to like actually start the sequel story and how it resets things for Shepard and introduces to the way you're going to kind of build that and get back a better ship and refine your crew and build your crew back better than it was before, which is essentially what the plot of that game is. But yeah, both those two things. I just love how they deconstruct and break down your expectations as to how you continue these stories, but through both an awareness of the gameplay and mechanics of it all on top of the narrative, hand in hand.
Those are both good examples. Yeah. Sean, did you have any other things that were lingering? Any other openings or stuff you wanted to say?
I guess one that I was thinking about just as we were talking. Are either of you familiar with Dynamite Heady?
Yes.
I feel like the opening level for that game is one. I guess when I was thinking about intros, I was thinking about like title sequence intros. I wasn't thinking about like the first few minutes of the game.
Oh, sure.
So I've been thinking about intros as in like, the beginning moments. And that's one where I forget exactly what the plot is of Dynamite Heady, but I know that there's sort of this like empire or there's these powers at large that are like kidnapping all the toys and everything, and you're escaping from this big robot that's like collecting people around you. And so it's this big escape sequence at the beginning of the game where you're running from this big robot. And then you fight this bear called Trouble Bruin who keeps showing up over and over and again throughout the game. And his body keeps getting destroyed and he keeps coming back as like just like a body and a head or just a head or different things, like in all these different configurations. So there's this opening battle with him that is also a sort of prologue to just what is to come and all these future battles you're going to have with him. And it's just a fun stage that sets everything up, and it saves a lot of the tutorial stuff for what is, I guess, sort of the second level. And this first level is mostly just about having this big escape sequence and fighting this mini boss before you really even know that much about what's going on or what the game is going to entail. It's like they just wanted to start you off with something fun, just to get the ball rolling right away.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's I've never played that, but it's on. I've wanted to play more. That's a Treasure game, right? I've wanted to play more of their stuff after Mischief Makers. That's cool. Well, sweet. Yeah, for me, like I kind of mentioned some of the other ones, like A Link to the Past, I think is really awesome. Just kind of cool, like kind of vibe, but also just sort of throwing you into it. And then the original Legend of Zelda was one for me. That's one where it's like you do have to read the manual. Like it greatly helps. But I love the manuals, and I love that upon replay, you're just starting there on that screen and you just got to go off and go. So great.
Do you have a favorite intro outside of the Zelda universe?
Outside of Zelda,
there are other video games.
There are other video games, aren't there? I'm trying to think of some of my favorites. I do kind of like how this is one where it is something that's kind of the opposite. It's more on rails or whatever. It's not like a big exploration game, but that the opening lead up in that first like village encounter in Resident Evil 4.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, just a really cool, like, gives you a couple guys and a couple encounters like to get started. In fact, like the first encounter, there's like you can kind of get swarmed on it, but then you're fighting a couple guys down the road, and then you get to that village and you have to basically survive. You have to kill whatever X amount of villagers before you kind of get saved by the bell. And that's like literally, yeah. Where'd everyone go? Bingo. I love that intro, because that's also one of my other favorite games. So sorry, I always go to Zelda.
I was
a lot of good intros in Zelda.
Yeah, I was going to bring up Resident Evil 4 as well, but it was a 4 and not a 2, so it made more sense to go with my 2s than that one was. But
sure,
I think it's a strong one. Is it like creepily like get you up to that village as you're questioning, like, wait, where's the zombies? Like, these aren't bad guys just yet. What's going on here? And then suddenly you're like locked down and there is no escape. You just have a timed sequence and you don't realize it when you first try it. So it's just tense and fun. It's a good way to kick things off for that game for sure.
Well, someone has begun using a snowblower outside of my apartment, so I think that might be the bell for us to start to wrap up the episode.
That's the signal.
But yeah, it was fun. It was fun to get together and talk with you guys. I always love being on your shows and having you on our show, but it was cool just to kind of let our hair down and chat generally about games. So, Sean, anything else you want to say before we get out of here? Obviously, we did all the plugs, but anything else?
Nothing really. I guess thanks for hosting, Goo.
Absolutely.
Do you want me to turn my camera on? Was this, I forget, was this supposed to be YouTube content as well? I wasn't sure whether this was going to be a more audio focused.
No,
YouTube focused.
No, just
my
audio.
microphone is plugged into the slot I would normally plug my webcam into. But thank you for hosting, Goo. This was fun. I hope we worked out some good diplomatic relations at this summit too. Some good trade deals, maybe some good treaties.
Someone's got to be doing real diplomacy.
The S3 summit, or maybe S4. I guess I don't know what we are. I guess we're 4 now. But yeah.
But this was fun.
Yeah.
Darren, any closing words, closing thoughts?
No, I'm sure the links will be down below. But any flashback or Sean fans, if you like what you heard from me, I've got more of it on different mediums and different formats, all available to you on the internets. So thanks for listening to it. And any excuse to talk about video games is always fun. So it's always great to talk with you too.
Yeah, it's nice.
You too, Darren.
Yeah, it's nice just to have some. Obviously we've got a lot of friends, not beyond the network, but it's nice to just have some allies out there, I guess you could say. I look forward to interacting with you guys on a day-to-day basis. So thank you for joining me.
Yeah, I look forward to the Banjo-Kazooie stream on Monday.
Yeah, thanks for showing up. It's great. We've got a lot of people coming by. It's a lot of fun. So we might still be doing that by the time you hear this, so go check that out. Thanks everyone for listening. Obviously links down below, but you can check out the whole network at soundstone.network. And we'll see you in the future.